cracking, I think. All right then, so yeah, hi everyone and welcome to our virtual meetup on the impact of Google's core web vitals on your e-commerce strategy. Here's the agenda for our session this evening. If anyone has any questions throughout this, just feel free to interject or put a message on the chat. Yeah, and I'll read them out towards the end of the meetup. So just a quick one for those that don't know who PushON are. We're a 40-strong full-service agency that's been established since 2005. So we specialise in the Adobe Commerce platform with offices in Manchester, Edinburgh, and more recently Bristol. So this event is part of our e-commerce Brains of Bristol group. So we established this group at the start of the year, which is when we joined the Bristol scene essentially. And I guess, yeah, you know, with the events being virtual for the time being, it's been really good to widen the net to guests and attendees in Bristol and beyond. So thanks for everyone attending this evening. And we're hopeful that we'll get the next one actually in person. I think we're earmarking October time. Hopefully by then, everyone will feel a bit more comfortable about attending a face-to-face event. Speakers. So yeah, we've got some brilliant speakers tonight. So yeah, really happy to welcome Camilla Bass from Fresh Relevance and Matt Duff from Adobe. And then flying the flag for PushON are Nikki Halliwell and myself. So yeah, it should be a really good discussion this evening. And Nikki, I guess I'll hand things over to you to start with.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll stop sharing my screen.
No worries. Okay. So hopefully everyone can see that. In terms of the agenda of what we'll be covering today, we'll go into a little bit of detail about what the page experience update is, and leading into covering each of the core web vitals. We'll then be looking at when this is actually rolling out and how we can optimize for the three main metrics that make up the core web vitals, as well as covering some tools that will help us to measure those. So first of all, as I said, page experience update. It's essentially covering these three main areas. The first one is load speed, and that's because Google has been saying for quite a few years now how a slow performance of a website affects user experience, but also has quite a substantial impact on revenue. Mobile friendliness is also a big part of this, and how your website is able to adapt to different screen sizes. And as I say, there's the three main metrics that make up the core web vitals. So this is an image that Google shared probably about a year ago now when they first started to seriously talk about the core web vitals. And you can see that it's not just these three metrics that make it up. We've got mobile friendliness, as I said, but also the use of safe browsing and HTTPS for mobile security. But intrusive interstitials can have a big impact as well. And this is things like pop-ups. It can even be like cookie warnings, chat bots as well. I've seen that today with another website that was having quite a negative impact on a mobile site. And that was because on a mobile device, when the chatbot automatically opened, there was no functionality to actually close down that chatbot. So you couldn't even get to the website. So that was obviously causing quite a large problem. And then the core web vitals themselves, they're covering these three main areas. So the first is loading, the second is interactivity, and finally visual stability. And we'll go into a little bit more detail about the three of those in the coming slides. In terms of why this is being introduced, it's because, according to Google, great page experiences enable people to get more done and engage more deeply with websites. And conversely, because a bad page experience stands in the way of people being able to find that information and being able to do what it is that you want your customers to do on a website. So the core web vitals themselves, again, this is another image from Google that explains how they work. So the three of them have gradings from good, needs improvement, and poor, and they each have a score or a timing measurement that allows them to fall within those three areas. The first two are measured in seconds and milliseconds, and the third one has an actual score that's based on how much it moves and how much that's impacting performance. So the cumulative layout shift isn't a time measurement, that's more of an actual score. So largest contentful paint. So this one is looking at basically, oh, didn't mean to press next, but there we go. Is basically looking at when the main content on the page actually starts to load. It's the same for your website, but this actual image that I've included here is from a Google search result. So if you're searching for Larry Page, who's one of the co-founders of Google, the largest contentful paint on this one is actually shown on the second image. So that's when the main area of text is actually visible on the screen. In most cases, it'll be an image, depending on what your website is, but as is the case on this website, the largest piece of content can also be a piece of text as well. So that's what this is looking at, is when the largest element of the page starts to appear, as opposed to the first contentful paint, which is when the first element starts to appear on the page. This metric is important for a number of reasons, and that's because it tells the user that the URL is actually loading. Otherwise, you just could be looking at a blank screen and waiting for things to happen. It's also important because it's a measurement of the page is actually usable. Because of that, it's something that can quite easily be optimized, measured, and improved. There's a few different ways as well that you can actually see quick wins within this. The first is images and making sure that they're actually being loaded in the correct size instead of being resized within HTML and CSS. I've seen some quite big differences with client websites just by making sure that images are being resized appropriately. So the second metric that we're looking at is first input delay. So this one is looking at interactivity. So we can see from the image here that anything that's less than 100 milliseconds is a good score, and anything that's greater than 300 milliseconds is classed as poor. What this metric means is that it's actually measuring the responsiveness of your website. And the image in the middle there will be similar to what you'll see on various site speed tools, such as Lighthouse. You can see the waterfall section, and it'll display things that look like this. What it's actually looking at, though, is how quick your website responds to a user taking an action. So that can be clicking play on a button, it can be clicking next on a slider, or things like that. So it's how soon your website responds to that. It is for that reason that it's really important that you make sure that your resources that are on your website don't make the experience slow and cumbersome. You know, if that is the case, people will quite likely leave and go somewhere else if things just aren't working as the user might expect. In terms of what can cause problems with the first input delay, it's often large images or scripts that are loaded in a disorderly manner. And with going back to the previous example with what we said about the waterfall, if you picture that as being like a traffic jam, things are starting to load but not able to finish, and it's just causing a backup of all of the resource there as they're trying to load. Again, yeah, with the first input delay, we can see how clunky users perceive the website to be while it's loading. And the important thing to realize with this metric is that it's going off actual user interactions. And because of that, the results can vary from person to person and location to location. For example, if I'm looking at a website here on my Wi-Fi connection, which is, has quite a good connection, therefore it's quite fast, that might be different to somebody else who's looking at the website on a 3 or 4G connection in the park. Things are going to respond differently based on the connection that they're using. The final one is cumulative layout shift. And in my opinion, and from what I've seen from some others, this one has the potential to have the largest impact, basically because it's the most frustrating for users. So this one is measuring visual stability. And as I say before, this one's measured on a scoring system. So anything that's less than 0.1 is considered good, and anything greater than 0.25 is considered poor. So this is looking at the amount of unexpected shift on a page. Now, if you've ever been on a website, like news websites are quite guilty for this, where you're reading an article and then like an advert on the page will start to load and the text moves and you lose where you are on the page. That's an example of cumulative layout shift, and nobody enjoys that. It definitely provides a poor experience, and it's something that Google is actively trying to cut down on. It doesn't just happen from ads though, it can happen due to the way that things are loaded. I even had it today where there was a client website who has a little language selector in the corner, and you wouldn't expect that to move very much, but it actually does. It shifted like twice around the page in quite a large amount, as well as other elements on the page, but that was causing quite a large issue. So as I say, it's not just images that, it's not just ads that have the potential to cause this frustrating experience. The cumulative layout shift is really important because we've seen previously, and Google has talked about how the conversion rate drops as the CLS increases. So the conversion rate drops as the amount of movement on the page increases. And there also seems to be quite a correlation between that shift on the page and people leaving to go elsewhere. So when is all of this happening? This is the page experience update that Google has been talking about for probably the past 18 months to 2 years now. Basically, it's happening now. So it was originally planned to roll out in 2020, but this was delayed due to the pandemic. And at the time, Google said it would start to roll out in May 2021. However, when that came around, Google decided that they weren't quite ready for it yet, and they still wanted to make some tweaks to the algorithm on their end and announced that they were pushing it back until June. And then on the 15th of June this year, Google stated on their Google Search Central Twitter account that it was happening, and that is now expected to roll out by the end of August 2021. It won't really be until then until we're fully able to see what the impact of all of this is, if any. And that's the tweet from Google talking about, that's the tweet from Google announcing that the update was now rolling out. So given all of that, how can we optimize for those? Well, there's a few different ways. So with the largest contentful paint, one of the ways that we can deal with that is by handling render blocking scripts and style sheets in a more effective manner, and trying to minimize the amount of CSS that's being used inside the head. Reducing your server response time can have quite a big impact, and ensuring that your time to first byte is as slow as possible, is as quick as possible, should I say, will produce quite substantial results there. With the first input delay, which is looking at the interactivity, we need to look at ensuring that the CSS code is downloaded and parsed as quickly as possible, and breaking up any long JavaScript tasks. Lazy loading is another way that we can deal with that, as well as looking at how we can reduce any third-party scripts. If they're no longer used on the website, we can simply get rid of them, or we can look at other ways to reduce their overall size. With the cumulative layout shift, carousels can cause quite a number of issues, and there's been talk in SEO and various corners of Twitter for a few years that nobody really likes carousels anyway. You know, does anybody actually sit there and scroll through them? Probably not. Compressing the images before they're uploaded as well, similar to what we were saying earlier, is a good way to help to reduce the amount of shift that you're seeing on the page. And also looking at using the aspect ratio CSS attribute. When we're measuring this, there's two types of scoring tools that you'll see on the likes of Lighthouse and PageSpeed Insights. And the first is field tools, which are actual measurements of the site. And the second is lab tools. And this is a virtual score based on simulated conditions that a user on a mobile phone may encounter. And that second one is important because that does have an effect on the first input delay. So for measuring the large contentful paint, You can see there there's various tools that you can use, PageSpeed Insights being one of them that we can use to measure and look at the field data. Same with the Core Web Vitals report in Search Console and the Chrome User Experience report. If you want to look at the simulated data for large contentful paint, again, you can see that in Chrome DevTools, Lighthouse, and Web Page Test is also a really useful tool. First input delay, as I say, because of the user element, that this can only be measured after a user has taken an action on the website. That means that this isn't something that can be measured in the lab. We can only use field data for this one. And as such, the best ways to measure your website against this is to use things like the Chrome User Experience report, PageSpeed Insights, the speed report within Search Console as well. And there's also a Web Vitals JavaScript library, which is quite useful. And then finally, with the cumulative layout shift, for measuring that one with field tools, again, you can have the Chrome User Experience report, PageSpeed Insights, Search Console, and the JavaScript library. And then again, for looking at simulated data, you can again use Chrome DevTools, Lighthouse, and the Web Page Test. And that's me.
Thanks, Nikki. Camilla, I think you're up next.
Yeah, let me share my screen. Great. So hi again, everyone. And yeah, big thanks to Tim for inviting me to speak today. It's a really great event to be part of. So today I'm going to be talking about the importance of personalization when building a good website experience and some technical considerations relating to SEO and all the core web vitals stuff that we just heard now from Nikki when personalizing your website. So I'm Camilla. As Tim already introduced me, I'm the content marketing manager at Fresh Relevance, and my job involves a lot of researching, writing, and talking about e-commerce. So before I get stuck in, I wanted to quickly talk about who Fresh Relevance is to add some context to my talk. So we're a best of breed personalization platform that automates customer experience and decisioning using a versatile range of tools that can integrate seamlessly with your existing tech stack. Our platform helps improve conversion rate and retention by delivering a more personalized and valuable experience to your customers. The platform also facilitates cross-team collaboration and maximizes efficiency because it's highly accessible to people across different teams, helping you build a better and more consistent customer experience. Our product features include things like cross-channel personalization, dynamic images, product recommendations, triggered emails, geotargeting, and much more. And we also offer testing, targeting, and optimization to make sure that you're offering the best personalized customer experience that you can. Here are a few of our clients. We're trusted by hundreds of leading digital businesses across retail, publishing, and travel. Hopefully you recognize some familiar names there and can see some businesses that you relate to. So on to the good stuff. When it comes to providing a good website experience for your customers, personalization is essential. Personalization is all about offering a tailored customer experience that's timely and relevant. It allows you to treat your customers as individuals, and in today's crowded digital environment, providing a one-to-one customer experience can really help your business stand out. Through the use of personalization, you can keep customers on your website, drive engagement, and ultimately boost your sales. Web personalization encompasses a whole range of marketing activities, such as personalized product recommendations and dynamic content. Just a few stats here. So 94% of companies experienced a rise in conversion rates after personalizing their websites. And the average Fresh Relevance client making full use of our platform sees a 25% increase in sales. And what's more, 89% of digital businesses are investing in personalization, which is a huge number. But when it comes to SEO and core web vitals, it is natural to question how personalization will affect your website search rankings. Personalization contributes to a more relevant customer experience and boosts the performance of your website by reducing bounce rate and increasing engagement. because visitors to your site are obviously much more likely to stick around if they're shown really tailored, personalized content. But while improving the customer experience is a big tick from Google, there are definitely some technical considerations to take into account when personalizing your website. So I'm going to discuss these technical considerations and what to look out for when selecting personalization software to help you create the best website experience possible for your customers without impacting your SEO. I'm going to be covering content delivery networks, asynchronous loading of script and content, pop-ups and layout of personalized content, and client-side versus server-side personalization. And I'll also be sharing a client success story at the end as well. So as we heard from Nikki just now, factors such as slow server response time, slow loading resources, client-side rendering, and long tasks can really have a negative impact on your core Web Vitals score. So when you're adding personalization to your website, you'll need to take measures and ensure that your personalization platform takes measures to minimize the impact on your SEO and core Web Vitals score. Because site speed is such a key factor in your core Web Vitals score, you'll need to have measurements in place to boost your page speed, and using a content delivery network is a really great way to do this. A content delivery network is a network of servers distributed around the globe that helps improve page load speed. These servers store and deliver website content, and each server is called a point of presence. So by using a content delivery network, you deliver your content via the point of presence that is closest to the user. So this means that the user and the point of presence that delivers the user's request are geographically closer than if the content was being delivered from your website server. So this can significantly reduce the time taken to load the resource. And when you're looking for a personalization platform, you should look for one that uses a content delivery network to host the script. This means that the time to serve will be really reduced, and it will ensure that your site won't have an additional external dependency. Your largest contentful paint and first input delay scores can be negatively impacted by JavaScript and CSS that blocks rendering. So rendering is the process of turning website code into the pages that users see when they visit a website, and render time refers to the amount of time it takes for a page to load and for visitors to be able to use and interact with the page. So if your render time is higher than it should be, it means it's going to take longer for someone to be able to use your web page, which is obviously going to result in a bad experience. To avoid inadvertently having scripts that block rendering while personalizing your website, you want to look for personalization software that loads the content and scripts asynchronously, which in very simple terms means that they load independently and in parallel, so that the scripts won't block rendering because it won't have to wait for the most time-consuming tasks to load. And your cumulative layout shift can be negatively impacted by factors, as Nikki mentioned, such as ads causing any changes in layout, cookie banners and notices, and dynamically injected content. Layout variations and changes in position can lead the user to accidentally click on something that they didn't intend to on the page. And I'm sure we've all experienced it, and it's a horrible, frustrating experience, and you don't want your brand to be associated with that frustration. In some cases, this layout shift can be caused by a pop-up that modifies the layout of the page. That's why it's important to look for technology that gives you really granular control over when and how your pop-ups are displayed, so you can avoid any unwanted layout shifts. Dynamically injected content can be another cause of layout shift, so it's also important to look for personalization software that makes it easy for you to replace content blocks with personalized content of the same size and shape to avoid page layout changes after the page has first loaded. Alternatively, you can consider using server-side personalization approaches. These are more time-consuming to set up and maintain, but they make it easier to avoid layout shifts post-load. So speaking of server-side personalization, your largest contentful paint score can be negatively impacted by client-side rendering, as I mentioned earlier. So it's really important to consider an approach that also uses server-side personalization and testing. It's not to say that client-side testing and personalization is all bad. So let's take a look at both approaches in a bit more detail. So client-side testing and personalization is actually the most common approach employed by personalization platforms. And with this approach, tests and personalized experiences are rendered from the browser via a piece of JavaScript on the client side. Client-side testing is easy to use, making it suitable for all stakeholders to use. There's also more flexibility since you can make changes quickly and easily. It doesn't require advanced technical or scripting skills, and it's also quicker to implement. But the downsides of this approach are that the personalized elements load after the main page is loaded. Developers have less control, and it doesn't integrate with web deployment frameworks, as changes can be deployed at any time. So many businesses are also now making use of the server-side approach to implement personalization without any impact on performance. This approach allows retailers to call tests and personalized experiences on the back-end side before the page is rendered. So this means that all changes are made on the server before it reaches the browser, allowing businesses to reap the benefits of faster page speed because the personalized parts of the page load at the same time as the non-personalized parts. This approach also integrates well with proprietary frameworks. There's also increased data security as well, since sensitive data doesn't need to be stored client-side. And also your personalized content can't be blocked by script blockers, cookie blockers, or any other privacy protection approaches. On the downside, though, this approach requires much more involvement by technical teams and developers. There's also a longer implementation period, and it can be hard or impossible even for marketing or commerce teams to make rapid tests and changes. That's why it's important to look for personalization software that offers a hybrid approach so you can get the best of both worlds. For example, you could use a client-side approach for initial testing via front-end personalization because it's easy to change, quick to iterate, and it's very agile. And then once you know which personalized experience performs best, you could switch to a server-side approach for faster loading of personalized content and optimal SEO. So I wanted to finish off with a nice success story. Our client, Jewelry Box, used server-side personalization to improve their internal linking structure. Using server-side personalization meant that Google started to index many more pages, resulting in a significant improvement to SEO for the long tail of less viewed products. Nathan Amory, head of digital marketing at Jewelry Box, explained that they were able to use Fresh Relevance via the API and render the block on their end, which meant Google could crawl it, and subsequently it rendered faster. They were able to immediately interlink all of their products without manually touching them. And they ended up improving their internal linking by 80%, which is a really nice demonstration of the power of server-side personalization. So finally, I wanted to share a few resources that are available on our website if you are interested in learning more about personalization, SEO, and core web vitals. We've just released a page speed checklist, which we actually created in collaboration with Jewelry Box. There's loads of great information there to help you audit your page speed. We also have some blog posts covering SEO and personalization, and also core web vitals and personalization. So those are all available on our website now. And yeah, thank you very much for listening. And my contact details are here if you want to get in touch and chat about anything that I've covered. Thank you. Over to you, Tim.
Yeah, just to say, guys, if you've got any questions for any of this, just yeah, just give us raise your hand basically, and just let us know. Don't be afraid. I know there's a lot of information here to digest. So I'll just get my screen share in a minute.
Just while you're doing that, Tim, I've got a question.
Sure.
I think it's for probably both Camilla and Nikki on the reporting side of things. So I've tried to have a look at an answer to my question, which is the best or the most ideal tool for reporting on these stats. Because I know on Nikki's slides there was multiple ways of being able to report on the stats, and I just wondered if there was any kind of preference to any of the different ways of gathering the stats, or is it pretty much everything just does the same, and it's just a different way of gathering all the metrics?
I'm just going to take that then.
I'll let you take that one, Nikki, I think, since you spoke a bit more about the reporting.
Yeah, that's fine. One of the ways that we've been able to do it, and what we've done with clients, is using Data Studio. So there's an extension as part of Data Studio that you can connect, and that uses the Chrome user experience report that I mentioned. And that pulls in the data. So all you have to do is enter your domain, and it pulls through the data that way, and it brings it in various different graphs that you can customize. And it's an interactive dashboard as well, as is the nature of Data Studio. So you can change the date range, and it'll bring in historic data as well. And the way that we displayed it with our clients was to use yearly data, so we can see how it changed over the course of each month. And that was quite useful, and still is, especially with the update rolling out as we speak, as I mentioned. If that's something that you're interested in, I can share that with Tim, and then he can put a link in with the recording when it goes up, or share it with you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. So so my role is, sorry to, I'm not trying to overtake the meeting. I'm a solution.
That's fine, Sam.
For we're now called Adobe Commerce, so we're called Maginus before. We're based in Manchester. We work with Magento as a platform, and we're doing a little bit of work with a couple of our customers on performance improvements and core web vitals and all that kind of stuff. And we are pretty new to it, and that's why obviously I'm here to try and gain a little bit more knowledge. And yeah, I think what we're doing at the moment is we're just running some of the reports and just manually taking some of the numbers out and putting them into kind of like an Excel sheet to show the improvements that we're making. So yeah, anything along the lines of that, where it's kind of more of an automated process and showing graphs to see the improvement is great. That'd be really welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, we'll definitely share that. But it's, our clients have got a lot out of it that way. It enables them to understand it a lot more as well. And as I say, like, you can show the improvement or the decline as the case may be. We created different pages within the report as well, which is quite useful. So you have like, on the first page, we had the client domain, but then on others, we had like 2, possibly 3 of their main competitors. So you can see how they're doing against them. And often that was quite motivational for a number of clients in actually getting them to make the change or understand what's needed.
Yeah. Yeah, great. That would be appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
Right then. So I wanted to just quickly cover progressive web apps and how Google's Core Web Vitals update can potentially benefit those early adopters of PWA technology. So I guess firstly, what are PWAs? And I've certainly found over the last 6 months or so, when I've had various conversations with merchants, they don't really understand what they are. And when they do, they aren't really aware of the technical or business benefits that a PWA can bring. So yeah, I hope I can clear that up a little bit right now. And I guess to put it simply, PWAs are hybrids of regular websites and mobile apps. So they are device and operating system agnostic, can run offline. They can send push notifications and scan barcodes. They can deliver localized content, and they can also provide analytics data that doesn't rely on cookies. And yeah, I mean, the overall market awareness of PWAs has definitely increased a lot in the last year, with businesses starting to evaluate them as a viable solution, certainly when they're experiencing slow page speed or poor mobile UX problems. So what we're finding, certainly true with a number of our clients at the moment, that thanks to that PWA technology, it is obviously able to provide a really good web performance, fast loading, reliable and engaging user experience. And as Nikki and Camilla have already covered, that's obviously going to look pretty good in the eyes of Google. So yeah, as I said, we've got, we're finding that a lot of retailers haven't adopted that, this new technology yet. So it does kind of represent quite a rare and exciting opportunity to get ahead of the competition. So whether you are looking to go through a replatforming journey or choosing to go down the route of using a full PWA solution, you can start small, you can start big. Starting small would be perhaps sending push notifications, but really you should start now considering a PWA strategy, and that goes for any type of business, whether you're big or small. I think ultimately you're not only are you future-proofing your business, but you're also bringing about a level of service and interaction that consumers demand really now. And there's a couple of things to look at here. So if you're a developer, Adobe, which is a platform, so Adobe Commerce, which is the platform that we recommend and we work with here at PushON, they've got a product called PWA Studio. So it's a set of tools developed that help create and deploy PWAs using the Adobe Commerce platform. So they've got a sample site that you can try out, that contains all PWA functionality, and any developments that they've also created as part of that. So it's a really good place to learn about what PWAs can do. And as a business owner or marketeer, we generally, first off, like to point people towards websites such as pwastats.com. So they highlight some of the businesses using this technology and the success they've had from it. So from a UK perspective, over the last few years, we've had the likes of George, Debenhams and Hobbycraft, who have all launched PWAs in recent times. So, some fairly high profile names there. And we're seeing certainly from the beginning of this year, a lot of the conversations we're having with merchants, PWA is a discussion point. And like I said, it doesn't matter if you're necessarily, if you think you're too small. Quite often you're not, and you can, if not go, the whole way with PWA. You can still start introducing things that will make a difference. And we've got Matt Duff on the call today from Adobe, so he's going to be just covering that in a little bit more detail, and also showcasing some really good examples of businesses that have done it well. So Matt, I'll stop sharing my screen and just hand over to you.
Oh, cheers. Thanks, Tim. Can you hear me okay? I'm not on mute or anything stupid like that. Excellent.
All good.
Okay, so can you see my screen? I should say why PWA, why is it a hot topic? Has everyone got that?
Yep.
Cool. Okay. So first of all, I just want to say thanks, Tim, for inviting me. Put my background here. So I'm one of the lead consultants at Adobe Commerce, but I'm a Bristolian, so live just down the road from Tim. Really, really, really happy to take part in the Southwest networking event, obviously very close to home. So really appreciate being invited. So thank you. I just thought from my side, I'm not the most technical person at Adobe by any stretch of the imagination. My background is really in the discovery with our customers. So understanding what they're doing today, what they want to do in the future, and kind of what they need to do to bridge that gap. And as you can imagine at Adobe Commerce, previously Magento, we do work at some scale. So at any one time, I might have between sort of 15 to 25 discovery projects under my arms, and we've got about 8 to 10 of us in the UK working on those projects. So the reason I thought that was important was it just gives us a bit of a breadth of what's hot and what's trending when we look at the notes in our systems and when we have our team meetings around what are our customers bringing to us as the things that they want to talk about. And pretty much a pound to a penny, PWA is in the top 2 to top 3 from every conversation we're having with our customers. And we try to understand from them why that is. And I thought this might be interesting today for us to get some logic around it. But essentially what we're hearing from our customers are that more and more people are accessing their websites via mobile devices, but conversion rates aren't where they want them to be. And they see that trend just getting bigger and bigger. And there's data from Google that suggests even more shopping will be done via mobile devices over the next 2 to 3 years. So it's clearly an area that our customers are looking at and thinking, well, how do we invest in it? What do we do? How do we close the gap with the best mobile sites that are on the market? And that's something that we're trying to help them with at the moment. And Tim alluded to, PWA is quite new And to a lot of our customers, it's quite scary. And sometimes they don't come to us saying it's PWA is what we need. What they come to us saying is they have issues, and those issues on the right-hand side of my screen are kind of broken down into buckets. And this has come over the last year, so sort of through from the start of the pandemic to today. These are the trending things that our customers are coming to talk to us about. So I'll just go through them really quickly. But first of all, how do they deliver on core web vitals? They know this is coming. How do they make their websites, mobile sites more responsive? How do they score well? What tips and advice can we give them? That's a typical symptom that we're hearing. But probably the biggest one is, how do we improve our conversion rates? Lots of our customers aren't happy with where they see the conversions. They pay quite a lot of money to get people to come onto their site on a mobile device. They see a lot of browsing on their site, but they don't see a lot of that converting into actual pounds spent or euros spent on there. So how do they do that? How do they reach every customer on every device? We hear that a lot as well. So, they've invested heavily in potentially a mobile app or mobile optimization, but it works great on an Apple iPhone. It doesn't work great on Android or different device generations. And there's all of these sorts of queries and concerns that they have. Maintaining and managing on one infrastructure, again, it's a concern that they invest specifically in a mobile app. How does that affect them from an overall cost of ownership? So a lot of our customers, they're not huge businesses with masses of resources. If they make a decision to upgrade or improve their mobile experience they're providing to their customers, they need to be able to actually maintain that, and it cannot be a huge cost drag to them. So although it can create more revenue, it can't be a huge revenue drag either. So we hear that. Final couple of pieces around quick and easy mobile payments. Again, we're hearing more and more about some of the big guys on the market, or the leaders in mobile experience, making it really simple for you to check out their products, one-click checkout or things along those lines. So how can they mirror that? How can they make their website look more like that? And then the final two pieces I think are really, really important. First of all, a lot of our customers are telling us that access to data around mobile browsing and mobile shopping is difficult for them to get hold of, and they don't fully understand how their customers are using the site when they're on their mobile device compared to how they're using it on a laptop or a tablet. They're trying to figure out how they can pull that data and change those experiences. And finally, being able to give easy access to everybody. So easy access to pages, easy for people to share information amongst themselves. There's more and more social selling. How can we make our mobile sites really simple? But the piece that I kind of missed out here is that improve the mobile experience. I'll put that in inverted commas, because for all of our customers, improving that experience is a different thing. For some of them, it's about making their mobile sites quicker. For others, it's actually about quite complicated workflows that they're trying to simplify for a mobile device. The breadth of Adobe Commerce customers goes right the way through from fashion retailers through to manufacturers of really complicated electronic goods. And being able to still enable a customer to check out on a mobile device is really difficult. And so I hope that slide's helpful in so much as just giving you a bit of a background as to the things we hear that make us think that PWA might be a good fit for our customers. But from there, I just wanted to give you some kind of examples of some success stories. So these are customers that have taken the leap into PWA with Adobe Commerce. And the first one I wanted to bring up today is eCommerce. So feel free, by the way, whilst I'm talking, to go on their site on your phone and browse it for yourself, see what your thoughts are. But for eCommerce with us, it's obviously a luxury brand. They had quite disappointing conversion rates on their old mobile site. And when we spoke with them, their feeling was that they're quite a high-end luxury brand, and they weren't getting that high-end luxury feel from the mobile device to their customer. They felt there was a disconnect between that and the in-store experience that you would get, or the experience on a desktop. So for them, it was all about increasing conversion rates. And you can see here that the key sort of takeaway for them was that speed equals revenue. They did a kind of almost like an A/B test really of their old site through the holiday period of 2019, and then their new site in the holiday period of 2020. And the key takeaways for them were, an 85% increase in mobile conversion rates when they were using PWA technology, 150% increase in mobile transactions, which is pretty crazy, and a 47% increase in holiday sales year on year. So nearly a 50% uptick in actual total volume of sales. Got a couple of screenshots on there as well, but feel free to go on there, have a look at that site. That's a live PWA site at the moment. And the reason I put that kind of mobile experience in inverted commas was for them, the experience needed to be more high-end, more luxurious, more in line with what their customers expect when they're in a spa or when they're in a store in person. And I think they were able to deliver that using PWA. But another example from a different industry is UK Meds. So these guys are really looking at mobile experience from a very, very different viewpoint. They provide prescription medication online. It's a heavily regulated industry, quite complicated sometimes if you're trying to check out on your mobile phone to go through all of the information that you would need to. But for them, this was a really big opportunity for them to differentiate themselves from their competitors. If they could enable their customers to check out, to use their prescriptions on a mobile device quickly and simply, they knew that opened up a market that they probably weren't servicing. So when we're talking about that mobile experience, PWA does deliver speed, but for here, it actually was about integration with back office systems and being able to fully utilize APIs to drive a really specialized experience front end for their customers in an industry that's quite complicated to do. Again, feel free to go on their site and browse for yourself. You may already use UK Meds. If you do, then you are using a PWA site. But for them, the big takeaway from investing and being an early adopter is actually a 23% increase in turnover since they've moved to a PWA site, and also a 4 times faster experience for their users when they're checking out on their devices. So again, for them, there was a speed development to it, but using PWA to decomplicate what can be quite a fiddly process was really powerful, and it's enabled them to grow really, really quickly. So I hope those 2 case studies give a good idea of what we can do. I'm just going to finish off with my final slide, which is a QR code to everything you wanted to know about PWAs. This is our most watched webinar over the last year at Adobe Commerce. So if you scroll over that will bring up the login page for the webinar. Obviously free to watch, but it's a 45-minute Q&A with our product team around PWA and the reasons why customers would be migrating there. Probably way better at explaining it than I am. But hopefully what you've seen over the last sort of 5-10 minutes is a good idea of A, why customers are talking to about us, the things that they're experiencing, and B, some of the outcomes from some of the early adopters. But I'd echo Tim's point at the beginning. This is relatively cutting edge for our customers, and probably only 10 to 15% are using PWA Studio at the moment. But what we are seeing is that just a massive opportunity for the customers that are ready to move now, because we are seeing them move the dial on conversion rates and revenue quite significantly. So yeah, if you want to know any more, feel free to give us a call or an email, or use the QR code here to watch the video, and feel free to ask any questions.
Cool, thanks for that, Matt. Right then, I'll just put up my screen. So we're actually on time for once. The last meetup we did, I think, ran for over 2 hours. So that's yeah, that's a bonus for everyone. All right, well, yeah, that's it for the time being. I'm sure there must be someone on this call that has a question around PWA. Is there?
I can ask one. Again,
for it.
Yeah, if nobody else is. So where I work at the moment, we've not really delved into PWAs too much, so I've not really got into it. It's on my to-do list. Let's say that. But as a really high level, what's kind of the process if you've got an existing customer that's interested in switching to PWA, but they've got a standard Magento implementation, Adobe Commerce implementation. Currently, is it a case of removing the whole Luma theme and plugging into kind of a new front end and having the the Adobe Commerce platform as more of a back end, so it's more like a headless approach. Is that how it kind of works?
Yeah, pretty much. So you want to look at PWA Studio. So that's what Adobe have bought out essentially to that's their PWA offering. So yeah, as you said, that's kind of then used as the front end. Back end is decoupled from that, which is obviously the Magento database. Yeah, I mean, what we're finding at the moment is, as Matt said, because it is a relatively new technology, everyone's kind of in the process of releasing, modules, extensions that are compatible with PWA. So and even Adobe themselves. So obviously they've got, their product is so feature rich. Not everything there from the get-go can be PWA compatible. But that's what they're, that's what they're trying to achieve and kind of rolling that out as we speak. So I would look at PWA Studio as a kind of a first point, and then also it does depend on the overall requirements that the client has, because as I said, there will be some cases where they require a feature where there isn't a pre-existing integration available which works with PWA. So then either the agency, or if it's a merchant that has their own developers, they would have to build that out themselves, and that's kind of where the cost and complexity comes in. But if you're looking for something fairly standard, using standard e-commerce functionality, you can get up and running with a PWA site in the same amount of time as you can, or any other normal site.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions?
Just a quick one from me. I'm Conor McGrath.
Sure.
Hi, I'm with Right. So we do web optimization software. Fascinating on PWAs, new area for me. So can it still be, I know from what your understanding or your explanation, Tim, it's a hybrid between a website and a mobile app. Can it still be crawled? Can it still be indexed? Is it still basically searchable in the same way?
Yeah, it can be. And that's like again, that's like the key thing with a progressive web app. Yes, it is all searchable. And obviously that's the difference between having maybe a standalone app against a PWA, because an app, a mobile app's not really searchable by the search engine. So that's where PWA kind of wins that battle.
Interesting. Okay, and in terms of the sort of the normal migration, do people start with a unoptimized or underpowered mobile website and then incorporate PWA, or does it go the other way around? Do you sort of start with a mobile app using PWA, or is there no clear trend?
For those, I think, it depends on the business, but
Good.
I mean, we tend to, recommend, if you're going to go down the PWA route, you want to do that for everything. That will be that'll be the mobile experience. That'll be the desktop experience. If you've got, then you've got kind of one cost base as well. If you're also developing an app on the side, then you've got two applications to maintain, which is going to increase costs. So going down that PWA route initially is probably the more sensible approach. And obviously, again, with a PWA, very much like an app. And there is a whole, there's a lot of articles online regarding PWAs versus apps. Obviously, we haven't really covered that today, but worth checking that online. There's tons of resources. But like with an app, PWA can be installed on your home screen. It could also be used offline, which is brilliant feature. So and obviously system agnostic as well. So for us, it's it makes sense, I guess, to if you've got the resource and the time there to kind of go down that route initially.
Great. And then the final question: so, do users still register to be enabled for PWAs, like they do with an app, right? Because that's obviously an asset for the website. The actual app user is known and can be marketed to, etc. Is it the same with PWAs, or is it more anonymous?
No, it's more anonymous. So there is no kind of app store, if you like. There's no download of a PWA. You know, if you're on your mobile, on your desktop, you know, on your TV, wherever whatever device you're using, a PWA application will just load. So yeah, there's no facility to or no need, I guess, to install it as an app.
And the flip side is the brand doesn't get the customer data, doesn't get to engage. So that's the other part of the same equation, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you still get the engagement. I mean, that's kind of like one of the key things for PWA, because it kind of offers that that kind of omni-channel experience. So then you've got, then in terms of engagement, then obviously you've got the likes of Camilla's company, Fresh Relevance, that will tie into your PWA product as well. So there's no real loss of any data. I think if anything, you'll be gaining more.
Okay, thanks very much. And Matt Duff, I just tried the LMS website. It's nice.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's pretty slick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Tim. Thanks.
No problem. All right. Well, yeah. Here are the just put up the contact details here for Nikki, Camilla, and Matt, and myself. Yeah. Thanks again, Nikki, Camilla, Matt, for joining me this evening. Been really nice to hear from you all, and thanks everybody for attending. Like I said at the beginning of the call, we'll try and get the next one face to face. It will be in Bristol, so those that aren't based in Bristol, you just have to make your way down and stay the night. Enjoy the city. Cool. All right. Well, yeah. If no one else has any other questions, have a lovely evening, and we'll keep you posted with the next meetup. I will also be just sharing this video online. Yeah, and if anyone wants to follow up with anything, just give myself or Nikki or Camilla or Matt a little message.
Thanks, everyone. Good job. Really enjoyed it.
Yes, thanks all.
All right. Cheers.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
Bye.